afternoon, everyone. We are calling back into session the meeting of the Buncombe County Board of Elections for Tuesday, November 19th. We continue today on Monday, November 25th, 2024. The rumor is we're going to end the recount today. We're going to end the machine recount today. Oh, thank you, guests being here. We love people being present in person at our meetings, but we also stream them. Do we have anyone tuned in online? Angelica can't tell, but there's a camera, so it looks like we're online and the light's on. Hello, virtual participants. We appreciate you being here. We stream all of our meetings. I'm glad you're taking advantage of that facility. So without further ado, colleagues, everyone have a chance to take a peek at the agenda. Without objection,
Well, we've already done these.
Oh, it is the same.
Yeah. It's the same meeting.
It's the same meeting, and we did the amendment of the agenda last time, where we took out that 4:30 meeting. Then we'll even skip office updates, although I'm kind of curious to hear what's happened in the past day and a half. Any word from Raleigh? Anything happening?
So we had our state meeting today that kind of recapped everything. And there are still many counties that are submitting just like we are. So we'll be added to that today. And we talked a bit about the possibility of hand-eye counts. And the state will compile all of the results. Once they have those compiled, then the candidates have 24 hours to request a recount. And as the state will let us know that they thought that we would be starting on December 2nd. They thought that it would be more mid-week that we would start our hand-eye counting.
So more like December 4th?
Yes.
Oh.
So one thing that I would like us to accomplish after we do we should prioritize finishing the recount is talk about availability before next week.
Thank you. That's it on office updates?
That's it.
All right. Well, let's move right along to certifying the recount. If we could.
Take it away, Bria.
Ms. Bailey, Mr. Whitney, it's good to see you not standing over machines.
Okay, I have reports. One stack is recount, and the other canvas that you can compare. Yes.
Will you talk them through it?
Yes. Okay, in your recount stack, I have the overall difference as well as a breakdown of where our differences were. So we have absentee by mail and 3 early voting sites that had a difference. The overall difference that we had was a total of -7. Griffin -1, Riggs -6. And the difference in absentee by mail was 1, Riggs gained 1. Early voting, Inca Candler, Riggs lost 1. South Buncombe, Griffin lost 1, Riggs lost 5. Wesley Grant, Riggs lost 1. The reason for South Buncombe and Wesley Grant is a difference of 8 ballots. we did not scan 8 ballots during the recount. For South Buncombe, the difference of 6 was due to errors in manual edits. We had a lot to make very late at night, so there were errors. Wesley Grant had a provisional that went into the DS-200, and we could not figure out what provisional that was to remove the votes. The other one was a same-day registration that failed verification. We should have followed the same process with the other ones by manually removing it, but we could not locate that ballot.
Which, I'm sorry, I was making some notes. Which one were you just talking about?
Wesley Grant?
That was the provision. Well, I'll let you finish. I'll stop interrupting.
Wesley Grant was a provisional that went into the DS-200. There were no notes to let us know what provisional that was.
It wasn't marked.
It was removed from the ballots and put into an envelope, and the envelope was not marked, so we don't know what ballot it was.
Or if it was approved or anything like that.
Yeah. And the other one was a same-day registration that failed verification. We should have removed it while we were making the rest of the manual edits, but we couldn't locate the ballot.
Anyone have any more questions?
So, just in general, what this means is that you talked about the errors late at night. Talk to me about that versus the rest of this.
With South Buncombe?
Yeah.
So we had a little over 100 same-day registrations that failed verification. Midway through, we found out that some of them were cured. We accidentally added back ballots that we never removed. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Okay. There were 6 of them.
So
So that was really the biggest blip.
Yes.
Yeah,
The
these
recount
numbers
is
would
more
look,
accurate.
would look really simple without cell phone.
Yeah. Awesome.
So
And let's remember that on election night, we had a crazy scramble. Because for the first time, we had to sign all those glasses early voting, close the polls at 7:30, sign all those things, run, hurry up, get it all done. This is what happened.
So to catch on to some of this, but there were some manual edits made late at night on same-day registrations for South Buncombe.
Yes.
So there's same-day registrations coming in. And that was on election night,
The same-day registrations were from early voting.
early, that's right.
Yeah, you can't do it.
Early,
They were done the night or morning of campus.
morning at campus, you all were making edits on the same-day registrations.
On those, on incorrect ballot styles, which there were 30 something at South Buncombe, and then all the other normal challenges that came along through the process of, the felons that we had, the deaths.
So you got this large amount of work to do.
Yeah.
So in trying to get that all done on the morning of campus, there were just some thousands of ballots. So that's where that's where they come from in South Buncombe Library.
Yes.
And then,
Okay.
Bria and Devin, how many hours did you spend on manual edits?
Tried to start, 9:30 in the morning the day before canvas,
Yes.
And when did you finish approximately?
2:30 in the morning.
2:30 in the morning, but we continued on canvas during the canvas meeting. So
I would like to, thank you, that's great to know. But this isn't documented, right? I mean, staff had to apply beaucoup manual edits, and it took an extraordinary long amount of time. And if these questions aren't asked in this meeting, this isn't documented, this isn't known. I would appreciate it if in the record of this election that it is documented about the manual edits, the quantity of manual edits, the amount of time it takes to apply the manual edits, and where the manual edits came from. Because this is feedback that I would like to share with the state. I'd like to hear about other counties' experiences. And I'd also like to know how this experience differs from the experience that we had in previous elections.
And just to clarify, it's true that we don't document the time, but we document all the edits. That's what the challenges are for, the same day. That's all presented to you. So I just don't want it to
I understood.
be misunderstood.
I'm talking about the story of the general election of November 2024. We had an unprecedented amount of staff time devoted to doing manual edits.
So yeah,
Okay.
same day registration.
Right,
Made that.
and it's okay to talk about it, but I want it documented. There needs to be a report about what happened and why it happened. Because when we have that, we can share that with other parties. I'm very interested in seeing that the folks who are up the chain are aware of the reality of the new electoral process elements that were introduced by the General Assembly for this election. They are not inexpensive, and they aren't taken care of with a wave of a wand. And providing that feedback to decision makers, I think, is more than worthwhile. Thank you.
I appreciate your explanation because it adds a lot of context.
Mr. Quinn.
Mr. Aceto, I'm sorry, Mr. Aceto.
My relatives do to me, and now you do.
Well, I spoke to my good Stanford buddy Ray, and I told him about this wonderful board member. Steve Aceto.
People correct me about how to pronounce my own name.
Yeah.
And
I
now
get
they're
that a lot
starting
too.
it in San Jose. Alto. Not San,
Mountain View.
Mountain View. All right, so I understand that there was one same day registration that resulted in a manual edit that had to be corrected. The other 5 were provisional ballots that were misdirected. Is that right?
No. Are you talking about Wesley Grant or South Buncombe? Or just overall?
Well, I looked overall.
Overall, okay. Overall, South Buncombe had 6 ballots not counted, and Wesley Grant had 2. Wesley Grant had the combination of a provisional and same day registration. And South Buncombe had same day registration.
So how many corrections attributable to same day registration?
6.
Okay, they were all related to same day registration.
I believe
But
so, yeah.
7 at 6.
7.
One of them was Wesley.
Well, we couldn't make that manual edit. That wasn't. Oh, you're talking about just because of same day registration.
Yeah. Yes.
No, okay, then yes, 7.
Okay, so and this is one race out of, but presumably this would have impacted 7 ballots, all races, correct? Because they didn't register
If
this
they
one.
voted.
They voted in those,
Right,
and
yeah.
yeah, and there's multiple races on multiple ballot styles, so.
Okay, but
It's most.
so we have to correlate. To get down to that statistic, we have to figure out how many ballot styles were affected by a same day registration manual edit.
Well, really, in the context of this, it would have been all ballot styles, because that's the only race that we're concerned with here.
Okay, so we're talking about all the ballots. We're talking about 7 corrections out of 160,000. Is that right?
Mhm.
Okay, so that was the impact of the same day registration as far as the errors. Now, as far as your work is concerned, your workload, what is the best way, in your opinion, to assess that? If we're going to give feedback?
In other words, what caused you the most work?
Yeah, one factor is how much you worked. That's important. But we want to get to the cause of it. How did that relate to change?
I think most of it was same-day registration. Would you say half of it?
I'd say half probably, an hour.
So the same day registrations, I think that was half. We spent half of our time doing manual edits on same day registration.
And I believe that the other change that was made this election was the deadline for challenging deceased. That left, so it used to be election day, it was 3 days after, so that's even shorter time.
Yeah.
Get things together.
Wednesday before Canvas this year. It's a challenge deadline.
Okay,
So
well,
all those things impact manual edits.
so how would you suggest that we approach? We're going to generate feedback on the legislative changes. How would? and
Don't
I-
post Rhea and Devin in that spot.
That's not our call.
Yeah.
That's really not our
Well,
call.
yeah, it is, because we can't, you're a black box. I mean, you have to tell us what affected your jobs and what, if we're going to make a statement to the effect that legislative changes adversely affected your performance, then you're gonna help us with that. You're gonna have to drill down into that before maybe you know. Tell me how it works.
And I would not say that it adversely affected anyone's performance, but I will say that it added a considerable workload to an already very, very busy process. And with tighter timelines on it.
Well, that's important, that if we have an additional workload, then that needs to be assessed, because that's a human factors issue.
Well, it's more work, less time in which to do it. And the bill that is currently sitting on the governor's desk is yet more work and even less time.
Okay, so let me circle back
So
here.
that's why I'm interested in getting this feedback out sooner rather than later.
And that's why I'm interested in what you're interested in. That we assess the feedback realistically and not simply just tell the General Assembly, you caused the problem. in this election.
Yeah.
So, and our people deserve better than that. So, that's why I posed the question to you all respectfully, because you were sitting there noodling through this thing. And you were here last election and the election before that. And you are in a position to compare. And you're in a position to do that without offering any criticism of anybody. It's just what you did and how you did it and how it all came down. So that's why I say that's not your problem or whatever. But yes, it is. You have to help us. You have to tell us. What is it, or more to the point, not you individually, but your supervisor. It's going to have to help us with that. Because we do need to be able to assess when the workload is. Because as Mr. Quinn rightly points out, we've got another one of these coming. And and we actually have some time between now and the next election. Some curative action needs to be taken. It needs to be proposed in a very compelling way. So I'm going back to my question. How do we assemble the presentation? What data do we use? What contribution do you have to that? And if not, you don't have to answer that question right now. I don't expect an answer, but our friend over here is going to help us with that.
I think that I am reacting to semantics that we will make recommendations for how we think that we can run the election better, not make recommendations to what we think the legislature should do.
Well,
That's why
I
I'm
don't
saying-
think Mr. Cito's asking you.
I don't think he is either. That's why I'm saying,
He's asking you to say what makes it easier for you to do your job? What makes it harder for you to do your job?
I think that the one
You can
thing that we
answer
could,
those.
the one thing that we could provide is just numbers. Comparatively, the number of challenges that we had to process and the midterm, the number of other previous same-day failed registrations we had to do in March, because there hasn't really been that much. The manual, the 300 some odd page manual edit log. That kind of speaks for itself, yeah.
The time that we had to do.
Yeah.
Because remember, the deadline for same day registrations is the day 5 p.m. before campus.
And we have other responsibilities that we're
Right.
also responsible for.
So, yeah, I think that numbers will go a long way.
Happy to
And
provide.
here's the number for 24, here's the number for 22, but please, 20 and 16, we've got them.
Yeah.
Sure.
Because there've been significant changes since the 16 election. And it'd be nice just to, hey, this is the result of those changes, and here's how much time it takes to deal with the stuff just in this county that flows from this county.
And we have to do that in relation to the number of ballots cast. Because it's reasonable to assume that that doesn't scale up arithmetically. When you start throwing more ballots into the mix, that's geometric. That's, you hear what I'm saying?
Yeah, the error rate increases at a greater rate than a straight line.
Yeah.
It's an exponential. And that is the combination of the workload and the time available to accomplish that workload. Workload's bigger, time is less, stuff happens.
I had a couple of questions about the absentee by mail and Inca County. Tell me again about the absentee by mail ballot.
Hang on. I believe it has something to do with undervote.
That was a ballot that looked like a vote for Riggs, but it turned out to be an undervote.
No, that one actually increased.
I'm sorry, increased. That looked like an undervote, but turned out to be a vote for Riggs.
Just wasn't
So I think this has something to do with our need to duplicate ballots during scanning. It looks like through that process, an overvote that was counted at canvas was not counted during the recount. It was a vote for a candidate. Does that make sense?
Okay, so that came out the duplication process.
I would think so, yes.
And what about the ballot at Inca Candler? There was a subtraction of 1 for Riggs. Subtraction of 1 from Riggs.
That was an undervote that was counted at canvas, that was not counted as an undervote. That was backwards. Hang on. It was an undervote at canvas. No, it was not. Hang on. Okay. One of the votes became an undervote. It was not read by the machine.
in the recount.
Yes, in the recount.
Okay, thanks.
Mr. Cito.
Another question. You'll recall that the state board instructed us to that when anything the machine recognized as an overvote, that was to be counted as an overvote. In other words, it wouldn't be added to the totals for either candidate or subtracted. Did that have any impact on the result that you could see?
The only time that would have shown up would have been if we duplicated ballots, so. Because these machines would have scanned the same way they were
We
scanned
didn't
originally.
necessarily duplicate every overvote, right?
Mm-mm.
Because we were instructed
Exactly.
to count it.
We're not alerted to overvotes
Right.
on the high-speed scanners.
So an overvote scan is,
And over.
it's just an overvote.
Mhm.
Be wondering, why did they bother?
Very good straight face. I guess I have one question too, just back to the conversation of the overall about getting some numbers and information. Corinne, can you speak to how that might happen and when we might be able to see that kind of information about what the total was and human hours and all of that kind of thing, and the comparison between 22 and 20 votes?
Like how long it would take for us to get data.
Yeah.
Well, we likely do have a hand count coming. And so that would start,
Precedent.
that would start the next week sometime. Wednesday, Thursday, not sure. We have 5 days to do that.
So we're probably looking at after Christmas?
There are people who have vacations.
Sure.
They need to start taking.
Yeah.
If we're talking about work under exhaustion.
Absolutely.
If you want accurate numbers,
No,
maybe
exactly.
January would be.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, that's
That's
the General Assembly,
That's what I need to know.
the new General Assembly will be seated then, and that is the group that I would hope to inform, but first, at the state board of elections level. Other counties have had similar experiences,
Mhm, absolutely.
and, the impact analysis in Buncombe is important, but I think a statewide, I will be corresponding with our executive director suggesting that we get that impact analysis so that we know, and so that we can tell the folks who make the rules.
It also will, if we can get it done at the beginning of January, it will dovetail well with our budget.
Mr. Quinn, on that, particularly impacting the budget, what opportunity might we have to add, these are lessons learned. What opportunity might we have to add to that, the lessons learned from the flood emergency? And how and the response, what worked, what didn't, what we were surprised by.
Everything.
Well, okay, yeah, but I'd like to really need to quantify that, because that's not necessarily the case. I mean, I don't mean that I'm poking back to you, but just there was planning that was done that was spot on. I mean, there was stuff in this building. You take a walk through here. I mean, that's what it is. It's like it's planning for the unexpected, and contingencies that this place just reeks of it. It's just full of it. And, but we could do some serious back padding about what all worked, but to get some kind of a comprehensive an effort at lessons learned that will result in changes to the budget. Just like I think that this inquiry into the impact of the deadline changes, I mean, that's got to result in a change to the budget that we're going to have to sell. But there's the lessons learned session that we could have somewhere in there, and that that dovetails with the budget conversation, and that's kind of the twin towers there. Once deadline changes, well, 3 deadline changes, unexpected or a large voter turnout combined with the environmental impacts. So that should equal some budget refocusing.
And, and if we have any variances from our current budget, it'll help explain the variances. The fact that there were activities that weren't anticipated that we had to perform. And that's why we spent more than.
If there's, it has to be an amendment. Yeah. Wonderful.
And in the other direction, we were significantly supported by other county people who were reassigned to us. The State Board of Elections paid for the emergency response, all of the portable restrooms, the temporary voting structure, all of the water deliveries. There's things on both
Positive
sides.
sides, right?
Well, we'd have opportunity to affirm that that was money well spent.
Yes, absolutely. And coordination that we didn't have to do.
Anyone have any more questions for me, Bailey, Mr. Whitney? Any questions about the recount?
Comment. I'm flabbergasted that there's so little that.
Yeah.
How'd you do that? I mean, my gosh, someone had to talk about nitpicking. I mean, how in the world? I mean, I'm truly impressed that you managed to compress, there was just the change here is minuscule.
It
In
is.
relation to I mean, I realize that that was a result of effort that you put into it. I get that. But, I mean, just something to celebrate.
Effort not only during the recount, but all of the work prior
Oh, sure.
to make for it,
Well, it is-
safe, effective election. Yeah.
Well, that's what I'm talking about, is that the recount simply vindicates your
Ain't
effort.
much
Exactly.
difference.
Yeah,
I mean, that's what it.
well,
That's
you need to
about it.
remember too, that some of those differences are totally out of your hands.
Yep.
When somebody runs a provisional ballot
Right.
through
And you
a
can't find it.
machine, if they don't mark it,
Yeah, but they found it. I mean,
well,
we
they
found
know it was
That's
there.
The process.
Yeah,
uncovered
so
it.
the
Right.
process
It all-
works, we know where it was, and that's something nobody can control. If you've ever worked with polls, you know that.
So with the manual edits, as I understand the process, you and you two do all the manual edits, one check into that. And tell me again, how many hours you spent on the manual edits when you started and
It's like 16, 9:30 to 1:30.
9:30 to 2:30.
It was a 19-hour day.
17,
Yeah.
for two people.
Plus what we did on Canvas.
Yeah,
What do you think was that?
we did on Canvas.
It's a couple hours.
Yeah.
3 more.
Yeah.
Maybe 20 hours per person.
Probably.
That's a full staff, full staff. All righty. Are there any materials, board colleagues, any materials anyone would like to review before we proceed with certification?
Good to me.
All righty. I would be thrilled to entertain a motion to certify the machine recount this Thursday. Ms. Brady, thank you very much. The motion before the board is to certify the machine recount. Am I under caffeinated? That is seldom the case, but the motion before the board is to certify the machine recount of the North Carolina State Supreme Court Associate Justice Seat 6 race that was conducted over the past week. All those in favor of the motion, please say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, nay. Thank you. The motion carries 5-0. Director Duncan, Ms. Bailey, Mr. Whitney, thank you. We know how, actually, we didn't know it was as arduous as we have learned about staying till 2:30 in the morning doing this. But we've been here and we know how hard everybody worked to get this thing done. And I think it's especially remarkable when we consider that at one point we heard that we'd get finished by Wednesday.
Wow.
And y'all finished it yesterday, just afternoon. So that means somebody was working real hard, and real efficient. Thank you so much for that. Such a relief to have this phase done. And we'll just wait to hear what the state is going to direct us about further work in this regard.
Thank you. So what will happen next is we will fill out the state survey and then our numbers will appear on the website where everyone is watching.
Today.
And I did download it earlier today, during the including Durham. Durham was probably the biggest one that I saw.
Without changes.
And they had big changes in Durham. It's like, ooh, I ask questions there.
More than Lenore.
But I think it was, Lenore was just, they were subtracting everything already. Durham was a little. But it wasn't changing the bottom line a whole heck of a lot. So we'll see. There's still other really big counties to report. So, is there,
I have a, Mr. Quinn.
please, yeah, please.
I would like to know, if there's any more, information to be given to us about the possibility of the hand-eye count and how is that determined? Are there any parameters in the rules or the laws about that? If, for instance, if the change is less than 10%, does a candidate then or does a candidate have the prerogative to ask for a hand-eye no matter what?
So in either scenario, if it flipped or if it didn't, then one candidate has the opportunity to ask for a hand-eye. And I did not see like percentages. So I think that there is a candidate who will be eligible to ask for a recount in either scenario. And the state board did tell us today at our meeting that they were updating the numbers memo for hand-eye counts. So I'm hoping that comes to that over the next few years. As soon as they can.
Just in time.
Just in time.
It's 3.
And they're canvassing, or they might be canvassing next week. State board.
And it's,
No,
Tomorrow.
tomorrow.
Well, at 11.
and when there's a hand-eye recount, it's 3% of the precincts, right?
The first one is, yes. The first one is 3%. And okay, I can't talk about the mechanics of that. So, and the state board talked about that today. Yes. I do think that a full hand-eye count is unlikely, but not everyone shares mine. So for this initial one, it's 3% at random selection as full voting locations. So 3% of us is about 5,000 ballots. But if they pull an early voting location, we have to count all 10,000 ballots.
So is the 3% determined by the early voting sites plus the election day precincts?
3% of the total, so 3% of our 162,000.
In other words, if it's not an early voting site, 5,000 happened to.
So if they pull an election day site that's not 5,000, then they'll pull another voting station, then they'll pull another till they get 3% or more, or they overshoot. If they overshoot, we have to count.
And if they pull, but they could pull an early voting site instead.
They could pull an early voting site immediately, and that would
Right.
definitely fill it by
Yes, and double almost.
triple sometimes.
I just need every county.
Every county will each individually, the state will, it's very similar to the sample hand-eye. Each county will get random selections.
So when I'm looking at the statute,
In the back book.
yeah, chapter. North
May or may
Carolina.
not be updated from August.
Yeah, remember when we
Yeah,
changed
Well,
it,
that
and
was,
I looked at
yeah,
the
but that was a regulation, not a statute. So it says in 160. Talking about hand-eye all the ballots, 3% precinct. That's the balance.
So does that mean 3% of 80? Or does that mean 3% of our population? Is the question.
I thought it meant 3% of 92. 8
Oh, yeah,
precincts,
and the early voting.
10 early voting sites,
And
one transfer.
transfer.
one transfer station, and absentee ballots.
So 3%.
Absentee
of-
ballots are like a voting site.
So
Am I
3% of 90 is 3 precincts, and they.
That is not how they explained it in the meeting today, but.
I'm reading the law.
That is how it sounds. From that, that's exactly hand-eye, which is locations and not.
Right.
That is
Which could be
correct.
really
3% of
depending
the
on.
locations.
Right.
But are absentee ballots a location?
So interestingly, in the numbered memo, it said they were. In the meeting today, they said they weren't.
That's not surprising.
So I think there's definitely some confusion. That's all I can.
All right, wait a minute.
Everybody said.
Document.
That is the quote of the month.
Yeah, I mean, the way that you're reading that, that's exactly how sample hand-eye works, but again, that's not what we discussed today.
If early voting is the precinct.
Absentee
I think
ballots.
staying tuned with.
But not only that, but
All
we've
16,000.
disagreed when we get a memo, if it's clarified in a way that's contrary to our law book.
Well, and the numbered memo, last numbered memo said we would start a hand-eye, well, no, it said the week of December 2nd, which probably will turn out correct. We can keep having discussion, but we do have this to sign. We forgot to bring a notary here, so we're having a notary on the way. But you can sign these. I guess we'll start.
Isn't the notary sign, but they watch the signature?
Oh,
They can't sign them
Yes.
yet.
well, they're
Better go.
signing
You better wait.
Jake's signature.
We can tell it.
Yeah, you guys start signing it. I'll wait.
Wait, am I right? I personally appeared before me, Jake Quinn.
You
So-
get,
so the
you
rest
get
is-
any doubt of it, but.
So we just don't matter.
Just.
There's a place for you to sign.
I didn't write it.
Steve, we missed you. We missed you this week.
Okay.
No. We did.
Well, I missed you all.
Oh, yeah, I can tell.
Yeah.
One of the things that we discovered this weekend, Steve, was that we only needed 2 of us here, 1 R and 1 D.
Really?
Yeah, we found that out.
But how would you have done that one voter intent ballot?
Called somebody up. We would have had a meeting.
I know,
This
that
is-
doesn't make sense
Yeah,
to
I
me.
know.
You wouldn't have a quorum.
What is the quote of the month?
Confusion reigns.
I don't see how you can have a meeting with all these.
You can't, it's not a meeting. It was just reading this stuff. It was a weekend. It's, look, I will confess to being totally confused by the inconsistencies.
And we
in
were,
our
like you
rules
said,
and regs.
You said
It wasn't a
that we
meeting, why were we
we're squeaky
recessing
clean in
the
this county, and that was good.
Thank you for that. Again, I mean, thank you to Corinne and staff,
Absolutely.
because the worst challenges that were filed with county boards of elections were not filed with this county board of elections,
Exactly.
because they were concerned about deceased members of communities voting, or felons voting, or whatever the third one was.
Registrations.
That's right, but faulty registrations, and that's because of the good hard work that staff does here every single day.
Are we able to continue while we're waiting on these, this other information that we have? For this
We're gonna talk about this lovely letter.
Yeah, we're gonna talk about this letter.
Okay, those letters
Talk about
came
whatever you want.
to Steve and I don't think you've probably seen yours in
We just
there.
got copies.
It also came to the office.
Yeah, I wasn't sure if it came to the office or not.
You won't then get copies, I don't think.
Yeah, they do.
Did everybody get copies?
Not everybody. They said for us to make it, please share them with Democratic members because they didn't have their emails. That's why I made copies to bring those letters here, but they did give them at the office.
So,
Didn't see them, Dr. Mary Ann showed me her physical copies, but they were in our election box.
Just for general knowledge, these are 2 letters that were received dated November 25th from Philip R. Thomas, Counsel for Jefferson Griffin.
so,
One is a request for records needed in Griffin protest, and the other one is our need to file protest and records request.
Griffin protest, I thought was being handled by the state.
Yeah, but these were sent directly to the counties because they're saying they can't get the information that they need from the state, so they're asking for it. from
So
the
this
counties.
would be out of the heart, out of the goodness of our hearts.
No, it's a records request, public records request.
We have received this. Mary Ann is just doing extra communication because she was asked to.
Yeah.
Right, and so what can you tell us about what this means?
We got the records request this afternoon. We'll look into it and we will apply like we do with any records request. Okay.
Is this information that this county has in its possession?
I don't know.
Well, this would be, wow,
whether
this
it's
is for the
in-
county, wouldn't it?
whether it's in a easily digestible form, like a record that currently exists. I'm not sure. A report, exactly. I think we had a conversation like 6 months ago about this exact thing of forming records or not.
And what they're
A
saying,
product
what they're
versus-
saying in here is if the report doesn't exist, they want to come in and review the records that a report would have
Would create-
reported on or summarized.
Okay.
So, but I'm sure you're consulting the state board of elections because if these are going to every county in the state, you want some uniformity in the treatment. So,
The state board was also on the email that they
Yeah.
sent.
right.
Yeah, they're not surprised.
And so I'm guessing the next time we meet, you'll be able to tell us what's happening with this,
Perfect.
not just in terms of Buncombe, but what the state board or what Karen and company recommended.
Yeah,
Yes, and we will also ask them to submit through our portal so we can keep track.
Yeah, right.
yeah, Mr. Quinlan, there's 2 flavors of record requests. There's a request for records and a request for information. And I was looking at this, trying to figure out which one this is. And it makes a difference to what you're saying there, that if they're asking for the review of a record, well, here's the record.
Well, it's interesting you
But
say that because
information, that goes into a whole different, that's a different set of response,
Well, and,
different kind of demand on the.
and well, they're making a distinction here in this request. They want the report, but if the report doesn't exist, they'd like access to the records so they can develop the report. So that's really what it comes down to.
It's hair splitting, but say they're obtaining copies of the following public records. So it is a document record request, not an information request. If anyone wants to know,
Like, they want a list of voters, but if that list doesn't exist, give me all those records so I can compile it. That's what.
in other words, see all the registration documents.
Well, it's for, I'm looking at the one having to do with the FWABs.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, yeah.
And, they want a list of voters who have self-identified.
Probably not gonna have
And,
those.
and if we don't have that, they know that you can't ask staff to go develop it. So they say, okay, and if you don't have it, if such a list does not exist, I respectfully request the opportunity to inspect and obtain copies of all the related records so they can develop their own.
It gets down to, did Corinne, did they make a list of
Yeah,
a
and,
specific list of these specific voters? I don't know why you would have done that.
yeah, exactly. I'm guessing they didn't.
Yes, is the.
And it looks like the council is guessing that they didn't do that either, so they covered that eventuality by saying.
So I have
By
another
giving us plan
question.
B.
All right, so what kind of is this a protest of a registration or a protest? Or is it a challenge to a vote? What is it?
Their original.
Or where are they going with this? Yeah.
Oh, with the
They filed a,
Just the other stuff that I've seen in this case, there are some parties who believe that individuals who have never resided in North Carolina have no right to cast a ballot in North Carolina.
so that's a challenge to a ballot. Or
That is
to
a challenge,
registration.
that is a challenge to a registration.
That
That is basically a voter registration challenge.
Does that relate back to a ballot that was cast in this election, or that just?
Oh, yeah, there were ballots cast in this election by individuals who are domiciled outside the United States and who apparently have never resided in the United States. They were born overseas, they were born US citizens overseas. They exercised their right to vote as a US citizen from overseas. And there are some folks who are challenging those votes.
And is that in the law?
The law, there's a law that says, apparently there's a conflict. There's a North Carolina state law that says they can vote, and the North Carolina Constitution says they cannot. So there's a conflict between the two.
Which is really out of our purview.
Yeah, it's way out of
Yeah,
our
that's
purview.
over our pay grade.
Yeah, it is.
Over-
And then we have the uniformed and overseas citizens voting act. I don't know what I can never remember what the A is in look out, the first A you look out.
Justin should.
And that is important because federal law will supersede state law on this stuff. And that's where I think this thing's gonna end up. But what do I know? I'm just gonna sit and wait and see what the results are.
Just like Justin was sitting and waiting.
Yes.
The last A is
First,
Yeah,
the first
that's the first one I don't know.
Devin said
Uniform-
assistant.
No. Uniform and overseas citizens, voting act.
And voting.
Access to voting act? American voting act?
Always voting.
Always voting act?
These people would generally be
Aluminum voting?
Absentee.
absentee.
Absentee voting act. Well, of course, absentee voting act.
these people,
But I think that's the one that's gonna end up deciding.
because I understand these people generally
Uniformed
be.
and overseas citizens absentee voting act.
Sorry, we got that about 2 minutes ago.
Yeah, you're behind, Paul.
Glenn, what'd you say?
These people they're talking about in paragraph 1 and 2 would generally be people who are children of registered, people who last registered to vote in North Carolina but live overseas. And by virtue of the fact that children of those people, this statute that they want to talk about allows them to register to vote
At the state level.
at the state level.
Yeah, so there's conflict of, there's apparently North Carolina Constitution says you can't vote in the state unless you vote. So I don't,
And, yeah,
out of my purview here.
I said good luck to folks who are pushing that one. But, we'll see, we'll see. The way,
Will that be on our agenda for the next, so that we can get an update on?
yeah, this is office update material, I think,
Well, this.
Just office
follow up
update.
on this.
You want-
on this records request.
How about just a general office update on
Perfect.
records request?
That's perfect.
And just to point out, this is not a protest that we got. Some counties did get a protest concerning these things.
We did not.
I don't think any kind of protest on that. That's two protests at the same time.
Yeah.
Filed at the county. We did not get one. Oh, no, we did. We
Yeah,
did get
we got
this.
this. The thing to bear in mind is if you want to vote in a presidential election in the United States, you've got to do it through a state. And so what this complaint is basically saying is if you are a child of a US citizen and you were born overseas and you haven't been here, you've lost your right to vote. And I say, good luck with that. So, is there any more business to come before this board today?
You gotta sign something.
Yeah, you don't have, and
Oh, that notary, we're waiting on the notary. Do we have to do all that in the meeting? Or can we just?
yes,
sign it?
board business.
Then let's do it.
Also next meeting date.
Well, we won't know that till,
You know, we wanted to look at the availability.
yeah.
How should get them to sign this thing?
I live for
Are y'all
election
done signing? Is
services.
it
We've
over?
signed, it's okay.
Okay, so Justin, you're up.
I'll let this up.
Probably the third. Maybe. I might start to- Yeah, one, two. I'm pretty decent, actually.
I'm gonna put a discussion of the possible hand count on the next meeting. I think we can say what the next
I thought you liked that.
They might come in. Might get a board to come in as a record.
Yeah, I'm already busy.
Some people do. Me, now we're actually, so, more than 80 minutes to read because of the same, so, to read the abstract or certification? Abstract or certification from this. It's like,
All right, now is there any more business to come before this board
Yeah,
today?
so we have to talk about next week.
Okay, let's hear it. Everybody's availability. Let's get out of here.
I can tell you when, are we looking at starting the third? So,
What's your availability
all right,
the
so
week of the 2nd and the week of the 9th?
All right, what I can't do is probably easier, right? I can't do Wednesday afternoon from 3:30 on. Anybody else on that day? We'll just do day at a time.
And-
You
and-
can't do,
Just to set a little parameter here, 8 to 5?
It depends on a bunch of things. There's a lot that we don't know right now. If we pull a site with 10,000, then we're gonna need to find teams, because there have to be the teams of 4, and we'll have to have a lot of teams of 4. I can't ask a team to count all for 8
Right.
hours.
Understood.
So we would need to have shifts. If we could find enough people. Because remember, 4 teams of 4, 16 people times 2 is 32, and we have never had that before. We have already reached out to the people who were working here, and only 4 said they would come back.
Oh, my goodness.
We may have some labor challenges. But 8 to 5 is our goal, right? That's like, if you're asking, would we do longer?
No, okay,
We
let's,
would not.
okay. So when you're checking your availability,
and hand out, Is it
We,
is it two
we
or
have to
four?
have a bipartisan quorum,
Okay,
because the questions will come up about voter intent.
right,
And I hate the idea of stacking those up.
no,
We need people to continue to plow through the process. Bipartisan quorum would be good.
So one of y'all can cover that afternoon for the Democrats, and
I'll
then
be
the
there.
only other time I can't is Wednesday from about 11 to 2,
the next one.
that 4th. Then the rest of the week I'm good. Okay.
The only thing I have is, Thursday, I've got a.
Okay,
Half hour.
I can be there.
but I'm
You're here
here.
And then that next Monday is. It's more difficult. I've got somebody, I've got one like that, and I can move it around.
Yeah.
So,
All right, we'll work it out.
Karen would like me to let you know that there are now 8
Whoa, double?
people.
Yeah, that's good.
No, the party split.
We'll be done by Groundhog Day.
We have 5 days to do it.
And again, it's just like the sample
February
one.
2nd.
oh,
We don't know how many ballots.
It felt like Groundhog Day last week,
Yes, it did.
every day. It's,
Nobody, do you have anything time you can't?
You know, next week is pretty darn good for me. I've got a 9 o'clock telephone hearing that probably will last. It may not even happen. If it does happen, it's gonna last a half. So I'm pretty much good now.
9 o'clock when?
But 9 o'clock on the 5th, which is a Thursday. And I'm gonna do that here. So I think, fine. Good. Yeah, the following. week,
Yeah.
I have a evidentiary in Charlotte, which starts on the 9th, goes to the 12th. That may not happen. But because I am the judge, I will be greatly missed. If I fail to show up.
You can't do that just like that.
So anyway, but
That's a tough one to phone in.
that is, that's, that when you talk on the phone in, but honest to goodness, I know, I should know that before that time, whether that's even gonna happen. That's so I'm wide open for 2 weeks.
And I would just like to note Mary Ann's faithfulness on this. She was here every day, all day, and I hope, Mary Ann, that if you get to take some time off in this hand-eye count, I think it would be a good opportunity for you, especially this next week, if Steve might be busy
Well,
following.
I'll talk to the judge.
Remember
Judge.
that there actually used to be a rock musician.
Mary Ann Faithful,
Mary Ann
she's a
faithful.
great singer, great British singer.
Well, she was
There used to be a Marion Wilson.
Mary Wilson.
Mary Wilson in the
Yes,
Supremes.
Marion. So, but I let her middle name was in.
Supremes, the Mary
Yeah.
Wilson.
Yep, that's my maiden name.
Oh, all right, Mary Wilson.
That's how I know.
But it doesn't sound like there's any day or time that
No,
We
we
couldn't
got,
couldn't get us 3.
Yeah,
No,
but that
we'll
was
be
just
good.
probably
Yeah, I
getting
think we'll be
Next
good,
week,
for
the
sure.
Bunkum Board's always ready to perform. You know it's true. All right, now, is there any more business to come before this board today?
Are we gonna tentatively plan another meeting or just wait?
I don't think we can.
Yeah, no, let's wait for directions from the state. In fact, the next meeting, we will hear from Director Duncan when the next meeting is. You've heard our availability, and there seems to be no constraint on day and time. So based on the direction we received from the state, just please send out an email and let us know where and when we're meeting. I assume it's here.
For handout,
And
will it be here or will it be?
it would be here.
Yeah, all the stuff's here.
It's supposed to be really cold next week. Yeah.
I've heard that.
Where are Long John? Come on.
That's where all the comments here.
Yep.
All right, well, if there is no more business to come before this board today, at 4:40 on November 25th, We are adjourning the meeting of November 19th. Let's set a record. Longest meeting yet.
Just got